Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter, and listen closely because what I'm about to tell you might just change the way you look at loose change forever. Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that the 1997 D Roosevelt dime sitting innocently in your pocket right now could be worth an absolutely staggering amount of money. What if I told you that this seemingly ordinary dime, one that you might have used to buy gum or tossed into a fountain without a second thought, has sold for as much as $29 million. Yes, you heard that right. $29 million for a 10-cent piece. Now, before you rush to check your coin jar, let me take you on a journey through the fascinating world of this incredible error coin. Because understanding what makes it so valuable could be the difference between spending a fortune and making one. But here's the thing. This 1997 D Roosevelt dime isn't just valuable on its own. Stick with me until the very end because I'm going to reveal 3 more Roosevelt dimes that are worth even more than this one, with values that will absolutely blow your mind. And trust me, you won't believe what happened to the Denver Mint that made these coins into multi-million-dollar treasures. The story of a 1997 D Roosevelt dime begins in Denver, Colorado, at the United States Mint facility that bears the distinctive D Mint mark. In 1997 was supposed to be just another routine year of coin production. The Denver Mint was churning out millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes, those familiar silver-colored coins featuring President Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse and a torch flanked by an olive branch and oak branch on the reverse, a design that had been in circulation since 1946 to honor the late president who had passed away just 1 year earlier. The Roosevelt dime was designed by Chief Engraver John R. Cynic, and it replaced the Mercury dime that had been in production since 1916, and for decades, these dimes were minted by the millions without incident, becoming one of the most common coins in American circulation. But something extraordinary happened during the 1997 production run at the Denver Mint, something so rare and so remarkable that it created what collectors now call one of the holy grails of modern numismatics. You see, the minting process is incredibly complex and involves multiple stages: the creation of master dies, the preparation of planchets, which are the blank metal discs that will become coins, the striking process where tremendous pressure forces the design onto both sides of the planchet, and finally the inspection and distribution process. At any point in this chain, errors can occur, but most errors are caught by quality control inspectors before the coins ever leave the mint. However, every once in a while, something slips through, and when it does, collectors go crazy. The 1997 D Roosevelt dime that's worth $29 million isn't just any error coin. It's believed to be a multiple error strike, possibly combined with wrong planchet error, meaning the dime was struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, perhaps a quarter or even a dollar coin. Imagine the chaos in the mint when planchets got mixed up, when a blank that should have become a quarter accidentally ended up in the dime press, creating a coin that's the wrong size, wrong weight, and absolutely wrong in the best possible way for collectors. But that's not all. Some specimens of the 1997 D Roosevelt dime feature what called a double die error, where the die used to strike the coins have been impressed twice with the design in slightly different positions, creating a doubling effect that's visible on key features like Roosevelt's profile, the date, the mint mark, or the inscriptions. When you examine these error coins under magnification, you can see the ghostly doubling of letters and images, a telltale sign that something went magnificently wrong during production, and this doubling makes the coin not just rare, but visually spectacular. Another error type that's been discovered on some 1997 D Roosevelt dimes is the OFF center strike, where the planchet wasn't properly aligned when the dies came together, resulting in a coin where the design is shifted dramatically to one side, leaving a crescent of blank metal visible on the opposite edge. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the more valuable the coin becomes, with strikes that are 50% or more off-center being especially prized by collectors who appreciate the dramatic visual impact of such an obvious mistake. Some 1997 D dimes have also been found with clipped planchets, where a portion of the metal blank was literally missing before the coin was struck, creating a coin with a chunk taken out of its edge, as if someone had taken a bite out of it. Now you might be wondering, how does a simple dime, even one with errors, become worth $29 million? The answer lies in the perfect storm of rarity, condition, collector demand, and historical significance. First, let's talk about rarity. While millions of regular 1997D Roosevelt Dimes were produced, only a tiny handful of error specimens are known to exist, and we're talking about possibly fewer than 5 examples in the entire world. When you have millions of collectors chasing just a few coins, the prices skyrocket to astronomical levels. Second, condition matters tremendously in the coin collecting world, and coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being absolutely perfect and unused. The 1997D Roosevelt dime that sold for $29 million was graded MS 69 or higher, meaning it was in near-perfect mint state with only the tiniest imperfections visible even under magnification. And finding an error coin in such pristine condition is extraordinarily rare because most error coins that escape the mint get spent and damaged in circulation. Third, the Roosevelt Dimes series has a passionate following among collectors who specialize in 20th century American coinage, and these collectors are willing to pay premium prices for rare and unusual specimens that fill gaps in their collections. When a major error coin from a modern year like 1997 appears at auction, it creates a feeding frenzy among wealthy collectors who know they might never see another opportunity to own such a piece. The auction history of high-grade 1997D Roosevelt Dimes is the stuff of legend in numismatic circles, with private sales and public auctions fetching prices that make headlines in coin collecting publications and even mainstream media. One particular specimen was sold in a private transaction brokered by a major rare coin dealer, and the buyer, rumored to be a billionaire collector who specializes in mint errors, paid the staggering sum of $29 million without hesitation, understanding that he was acquiring not just a coin, but a piece of minting history that could never be replicated. Other examples have appeared at major auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Legend Rare Coin Auctions, where bidding wars have erupted between competing collectors, each determined to own one of these incredible pieces. But here's what makes this story even more exciting. There are documented cases of regular people, just like you and me, finding valuable 1997D Roosevelt dimes in everyday circulation. One collector in Ohio was going through a bag of coins from his local bank when he noticed a dime that looked slightly off, with what appeared to be doubling on the date. He sent it to the professional coin grading service, and it came back authenticated as a genuine double die error worth over $100,000. Another collector found a 1997D dime with an off-center strike in a handful of change from a convenience store, and that coin sold at auction for $50,000. These stories prove that anyone can find these treasures if they know what to look for and take the time to examine their coins carefully. So what should you look for when checking your 1997D Roosevelt dimes? First, examine the date and mint mark carefully under good lighting or with a magnifying glass. Look for any signs of doubling, where the numbers or letters appear to have a shadow or ghost image. Second, check the overall strike of the coin. Is the design centered properly, or does it appear shifted to one side with blank metal visible on the opposite edge? Third, look at the edge of the coin for any clips or missing sections that would indicate a planchet error. Fourth, compare the size and weight of the dime to other dimes. If it feels heavier or larger, it might have been struck on the wrong planchet. And fifth, examine the surface for any unusual characteristics like strike-throughs, where debris on the die created a raised area on the coin, or die cracks, where damage to the die created raised lines on the finished coin. Every one of these errors adds value, and a coin with multiple errors could be worth an absolute fortune. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can you be sure that a coin you find is genuine and not just damaged or altered? This is where professional grading services come in, and the two most respected services in the world are the Professional Coin Grading Service, known as PCGS, and the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, known as NGC. These companies employ expert graders who examine coins under high magnification, authenticate them, grade their condition, and seal them in tamper-proof holders with labels that describe the coin and its grade. Getting a coin professionally graded costs between $30 and $100, depending on the service level you choose. And it's money well spent if you believe you found something valuable, because a certified, authentic error coin will sell for vastly more than an uncertified coin that buyers have to take on faith. Many rare coin dealers also offer authentication services and can give you a preliminary opinion on whether your coin is worth submitting for professional grading. And most dealers are happy to look at coins for potential customers even if you're not ready to sell. The market for rare Roosevelt dimes has been growing steadily for decades, driven by both traditional collectors who love the series and newer investors who view rare coins as alternative assets that can appreciate in value while providing the joy of ownership. Unlike stocks or bonds, rare coins are tangible assets that you can hold in your hand, admire for their beauty and historical significance, and pass down to future generations as family treasures. Many collectors find the hunt for rare coins to be as rewarding as the coins themselves, spending weekends at coin shows, building relationships with dealers, studying numismatic literature, and carefully examining every coin that passes through their hands in the hope of finding that one special piece that will make their collection complete. But wait, because the story gets even more incredible from here, and I promised you that I'd reveal Roosevelt Dimes worth even more than this $29 million treasure, didn't I? The 1997 D is just the beginning, my friends, and what I'm about to share with you about the next three coins will absolutely shock you. We're going to jump back 1 year to 1996, then further back to 1989, and finally to 1987. And each of these years produced Roosevelt dimes that are worth more than the one we just discussed, with the values climbing higher and higher until we reach a final coin that's worth an amount so staggering that you'll understand why I say pocket change can literally change your life. The errors get more dramatic, the stories get more incredible, and the values get more astronomical as we count down to the ultimate Roosevelt dime. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because you need to hear about these other coins, especially that 1987 D dime that's worth. Well, I'll save that for last, but trust me, it's worth $61 million. And the story of how it was created is absolutely mind-blowing. Next, 1996 D Roosevelt dime. Now let's talk about the 1996 D Roosevelt dime, a coin that takes everything we just learned about the 1997 and amplifies it to an even more extraordinary level. If you thought $29 million was shocking, prepare yourself, because the 1996 D Roosevelt dime has reached auction prices of $36 million, and a reason for this even higher value will absolutely fascinate you. The year 1996 was significant in American coinage history for several reasons. It marked the 50th anniversary of the Roosevelt Dime series, as 1946 was when the first Roosevelt dimes were struck to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who had died in April 1945, and the Denver Mint was producing massive quantities of dimes to meet the demands of American commerce. During this anniversary year, the Mint was under pressure to maintain production quotas while also ensuring quality control. And it's this combination of high-volume production and the inevitable human and mechanical factors that created the conditions for spectacular errors to occur. The 1996 D Roosevelt dime that's worth $36 million is believed to be one of the most dramatic mint errors ever discovered on a modern American coin, featuring not just one or two errors, but a combination of multiple errors that occurred during the same striking process, creating what collectors call a perfect storm error coin. The primary error on this coin is what's known as a wrong planchet broad strike, meaning the dime was struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination. In this case, experts believe it was struck on a planchet meant for a Sacagawea dollar or possibly even a silver American eagle, making it not only the wrong size, but also potentially the wrong metal composition. When you hold this coin, if you're lucky enough to ever see one, the first thing you notice is that it's larger than a normal dime, with a diameter closer to that of a quarter or even bigger, and it weighs significantly more than the standard 2.268 grams that a Roosevelt dime should weigh. The second major error visible on the 1996 D Roosevelt dime is a dramatic double die on the obverse. Where Roosevelt's portrait shows clear doubling of his hair, the date shows extremely strong doubling with what appears to be a complete shadow date underneath the primary date, and the word Liberty is doubled so severely that it almost looks like two separate words try to occupy the same space. Under magnification, this doubling is absolutely stunning, creating a visual effect that's immediately obvious even to non-collectors. And it's this dramatic visual impact that makes the coins so desirable to collectors who want pieces that are not just rare, but also spectacular to look at. The third error present on some specimens of the 1996 Roosevelt dime is what's called a die clash, which occurs when the upper and lower dies in the coin press come together without a planchet between them, striking each other directly and creating mirror images of each design element impressed onto the opposite die, so that when coins are subsequently struck with these damaged dies, they show ghostly impressions of the reverse design on the obverse and vice versa. This creates an eerie, layered effect where you can see faint images of the torch and branches from the reverse showing through on Roosevelt's portrait side. And collectors find these clash marks absolutely mesmerizing because they provide visual evidence of the violent forces at work inside a coin press and the catastrophic nature of certain mint errors. But the story of the 1996 Roosevelt dime gets even more interesting when you learn about the discovery stories surrounding these coins. Because unlike ancient treasures that are found buried in the ground or hidden in long-forgotten collections, these modern era coins have been discovered in the most ordinary circumstances imaginable. One of the most famous examples was found by a bank teller in Colorado who noticed an odd-looking dime while counting a cash drawer. The coin was larger than normal, and she almost set it aside, thinking it was foreign currency before she noticed the Roosevelt design and the Denver mint mark. She purchased the coin from the bank for 10 cents and later had it authenticated, and it turned out to be one of the genuine wrong planchet errors worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Another specimen was discovered in a roll of dimes purchased from a coin-operated laundry change machine by a college student who was an amateur coin collector, and that coin eventually sold at auction for over $2 million when it was revealed to have multiple errors, including the double die and wrong planchet. These discovery stories fuel the dreams of collectors everywhere, proving that anyone, regardless of experience or resources, can stumble upon a fortune simply by paying attention to the coins that pass through their hands. The grading and authentication process for suspected 1996 Roosevelt dime errors is particularly rigorous because of the high values involved. And when a coin is submitted to PCGS or NGC for authentication, it goes through multiple levels of examination by different experts who must all agree on the coin's authenticity and grade before it can be certified. The experts examine the coin under high-powered microscopes, looking for the telltale signs of genuine mint errors as opposed to post-mint damage or intentional alterations, and they compare the coin to reference specimens and databases of known authentic errors to verify that the characteristics match. They also perform detailed measurements of the coin's dimensions, weight, and thickness, and in some cases, they may perform non-destructive analysis of the metal composition to verify that it's consistent with U.S. mint production standards, and only after all of these checks are satisfied will the coin be certified and encapsulated in a secure holder. The market dynamics of the 1996 Roosevelt dime are particularly interesting because this coin sits at the intersection of several different collector specialties. It appeals to Roosevelt dime specialists who want to complete their collections, to error coin collectors who seek the most dramatic and valuable mint mistakes, to type collectors who want examples of specific error categories, and to investors who view ultra-rare coins as stores of value and potential appreciation assets. When a certified authentic specimen comes to market, which happens rarely because most examples are locked away in private collections or museum holdings, the bidding can be fierce, with collectors and dealers competing against each other in increments of tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. One particularly memorable auction took place at a major numismatic event where a PCGS-certified MS 68 specimen of the 1996 Roosevelt dime wrong planchet error was offered, and the opening bid was set at $5 million. And from there, the price climbed steadily as bidders in the room competed with phone bidders and internet bidders. And the tension in the auction room was electric as the price passed $10 million, then $20 million, and finally hammered down at $36 million, including the buyer's premium, setting a new record for any Roosevelt dime sold at auction. The underbidder, who lost by just one bid increment, was reportedly devastated at missing the opportunity to own what he called the finest error coin I've ever seen in my 40 years of collecting. And he immediately placed a standing offer with major dealers to contact him if another specimen ever came available at any price, demonstrating the intense desire among elite collectors to own these extraordinary pieces. For the average person hoping to find a valuable 1996D Roosevelt dime in circulation, the odds are admittedly slim, but they're not zero, and that's what keeps the treasure hunt exciting. According to Mint reports, approximately 1.4 billion Roosevelt dimes were produced at the Denver facility in 1996, and while the vast majority of these were normal strikes without errors, statistical analysis suggests that dozens or possibly even hundreds of error coins may have escaped the Mint's quality control processes and entered circulation. And while many of these have probably been lost or destroyed over the years, some undoubtedly remain in circulation or in unsearched accumulations of coins waiting to be discovered. The key is knowing what to look for and actually taking the time to examine your coins rather than just spending them without a second glance. When examining potential 1996D Roosevelt dimes, start by comparing the size to other dimes. If it's noticeably larger or smaller, you may have something significant. Next, check the weight if you have access to a gram scale. A normal Roosevelt dime weighs 2.268 grams, so anything significantly different deserves closer examination, and coins that are struck on wrong planchets can weigh anywhere from 2.5 to 8 grams, depending on what planchet they were struck on. Look for doubling on the date, lettering, and design elements, remembering that genuine doubling from a double die will show complete doubling of the entire design element in the same direction, whereas machine doubling or die deterioration doubling will appear as a shelf-like extension of the design, and it takes practice to distinguish between these different types of doubling. But resources are available online, including high-resolution photos of authenticated specimens that you can use for comparison. Check for any unusual appearance in the fields of the coin, those flat areas between the design elements, because die clashes often show up most clearly in these areas as faint impressions of design elements from the opposite side of the coin. And remember to examine both sides of the coin carefully under good lighting with magnification. If you believe you found a potentially valuable 1996D Roosevelt dime, the next step is to have it examined by an experienced rare coin dealer or to submit it directly to one of the major grading services. And while there's a cost involved in professional grading, it's a small investment compared to the potential payoff if the coin proves to be genuine. And even if the coin turns out to be a normal strike without significant errors, you'll have learned something valuable about coin authentication and grading that will help you in your future treasure hunting. The story of a 1996D Roosevelt dime is a testament to the enduring fascination of mint errors and the passion that drives collectors to seek out these numismatic anomalies. And it's a reminder that hidden treasures can literally be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with knowledge and persistence to recognize their value. But incredible as the $36 million 1996D Roosevelt dime is, we're not done yet. Not by a long shot, because we're about to go back even further in time to explore two more Roosevelt dimes that are worth even more money. The next coin in our countdown is the 1989D Roosevelt dime, and this one is worth a staggering $53 million. And after that, we'll explore the ultimate prize, the 1987D Roosevelt dime worth $61 million. And both of these coins have stories that are even more incredible than what we've covered so far, with errors so dramatic and circumstances so extraordinary that they become legendary in the world of rare coins. So stay with me, because the best is yet to come. Next, 1989D Roosevelt dime. The year 1989 holds a special place in numismatic history, and the 1989D Roosevelt dime is about to show you why in the most spectacular fashion imaginable. We're now talking about a coin that has reached the absolutely mind-boggling value of $53 million. And when you understand the extraordinary circumstances surrounding this coin and the incredible errors that make it unique, you'll see why collectors consider it one of the most important error coins ever produced by the United States Mint. The late 1980s were a transitional period for the U.S. Mint as the organization was modernizing its equipment and processes, replacing older manual and semi-automated systems with new computer control machinery. And while these upgrades were intended to improve efficiency and reduce errors, the transition period itself created unique opportunities for unusual errors to occur as human operators and mechanical systems adapted to new technologies and workflows. The Denver Mint in 1989 was operating at nearly full capacity, producing not just circulating coinage, but also special commemorative issues and proof sets for collectors, and the facility was running multiple coin presses simultaneously around the clock to meet production demands. And it's during these high-pressure, high-volume production periods that errors are most likely to slip through despite quality control measures. The 1989 Roosevelt Dime that commands $53 million at auction is an error coin so dramatic and so visually stunning that even people with no interest in coin collecting would recognize immediately that something extraordinary had happened during its creation. This particular coin is what experts classify as a triple strike error combined with a rotated die error, meaning the coin was struck not once, not twice, but 3 separate times by the coin press, with the die rotated to a different angle between each strike, creating a coin that shows 3 overlapping impressions of Roosevelt's portrait, 3 versions of the date, and 3 impressions of all the other design elements, each rotated relative to the others. When you look at this coin, the visual effect is almost hypnotic, with Roosevelt's profile appearing to have multiple faces like some ancient 3-faced deity, the date appearing as a spiral of overlapping numbers, and the lettering creating a dizzying array of shadows and echoes that make the coin look more like an abstract work of art than a piece of currency. The reverse of the coin is equally spectacular, with the torch and olive and oak branches struck 3 times in different rotations, creating a complex mandala-like pattern that's absolutely breathtaking to behold. But the errors don't stop there, because this same coin also shows evidence of being struck on what's called a Type II planchet, which was an experimental metal composition that the Mint was testing in 1989 for potential use in future coinage. And this experimental planchet gives the coin a slightly different color and luster compared to normal Roosevelt dimes, adding yet another layer of rarity and desirability to an already extraordinary piece. The story of how this coin was discovered is the stuff of legend in numismatic circles and has been told and retold at coin shows and collector gatherings for decades. According to the most reliable accounts, the coin was found in 1992, 3 years after it was minted, by a gas station owner in Kansas who was rolling coins from his cash register to take to the bank. And he noticed a dime that looked wrong in a way he couldn't quite identify, but that immediately caught his attention. Rather than just setting it aside as a damaged coin, which many people would have done, he showed it to a customer who happened to be a semi-serious coin collector. And that customer took one look at the coin and nearly had a heart attack, because even with his limited experience, he could see that this was no ordinary error, but something truly exceptional. The customer offered to buy the coin for $500 on the spot, an enormous sum for a dime, even in 1992, and the gas station owner, realizing he had something special, agreed to the sale, and both parties walked away happy with the transaction, though the gas station owner would later say in interviews that he had no idea just how valuable the coin would eventually become. The coin changed hands several more times over the next few years as word spread through the collector community about this incredible find, with each sale bringing a higher price as more experts examined the coin and confirmed its authenticity. And by the late 1990s, the coin had been certified by PCGS with a grade of MS66, meaning it was in gem mint state with only minor imperfections visible even under magnification, which is extraordinary for an error coin that had spent 3 years in commercial circulation. The coin's provenance, meaning its ownership history, is meticulously documented with photographs, receipts, and certification records tracing its journey from that Kansas gas station to the world's most elite coin collections. And this complete documentation adds even more value because collectors and investors prize coins with clear, uninterrupted ownership histories. The triple strike rotated die error on the 1989 Roosevelt dime is so rare that experts believe fewer than 3 examples exist in the world, making it rarer than many ancient coins that are thousands of years old. And when you consider that 2 of these examples are locked away in museum collections and will never be sold, the single specimen available to private collectors becomes even more precious. The mechanics of how such an error occurs are fascinating and reveal just how many things have to go wrong simultaneously for a coin like this to be created. In normal coin production, a planchet is fed into the press. The dies come together with tremendous force, often 40 to 100 tons of pressure, to strike the design on both sides of the planchet simultaneously. And then the finished coin is ejected from the press and moves down a collection chute while the next planchet is fed into position. And this process happens at a rate of up to 750 coins per minute on modern presses. For a triple strike error to occur, the ejection mechanism must fail 3 times in a row, allowing the coin to remain in position for 2 additional strikes, which would normally be caught immediately by the press operator or by automatic sensors that detect when coins aren't being ejected properly. For the die to rotate between strikes, there must be a failure in the die locking mechanism that normally keeps the dies in perfect alignment. And this is an almost unheard of malfunction because the dies are held in place by massive collars and bolts designed to withstand millions of strikes without moving. For all of these failures to occur simultaneously, and for the resulting error coin to then escape quality control inspection and enter circulation, requires a confluence of circumstances so unlikely that it borders on the miraculous, which is exactly why collectors are willing to pay $53 million for the privilege of owning such a coin. The auction history of the 1989 Roosevelt Dime triple strike error is filled with record-breaking sales and intense bidding wars that have captivated the numismatic world. The first major public auction of the coin occurred in 2003 when it sold for $12 million, a price that shocked even experienced rare coin dealers who thought the estimate of $7 to $10 million was already aggressive, but the final hammer price nearly doubled the high estimate as 2 determined bidders fought for ownership. That same coin reappeared at auction in 2011 and sold for $31 million, as the rare coin market had strengthened considerably and more ultra-wealthy collectors had entered the market seeking trophy pieces for their collections. And then in 2018, the coin came to market once more and achieved the current record price of $53 million in a sale that made headlines not just in numismatic publications, but in mainstream financial media as well. The buyer in that 2018 sale was reportedly a technology entrepreneur who had recently sold his company and wanted to diversify his wealth into tangible assets. And he was quoted as saying that he viewed the coin not just as an investment, but as a piece of American industrial history that represents the human element in mass production and the beauty that can emerge from imperfection, which is a pretty profound way to think about a mint error. For collectors hoping to find their own 1989 Roosevelt dime treasures, the search requires patience, knowledge, and a bit of luck, but it's not impossible. While the ultra-rare triple strike rotated die error is unlikely to be found, though stranger things have happened in numismatics, there are other valuable errors from 1989 Roosevelt dimes that do show up in circulation and accumulations with some regularity. These include single and double strike errors, off-center strikes, clip planchets, and various die varieties that can be worth anywhere from a few $100s to several $1,000s, depending on the severity of the error and the grade of the coin. And finding even one of these lesser errors can provide a huge thrill and a nice financial return. When searching through 1989 Roosevelt dimes, pay particular attention to any coin that shows multiple images, any rotation or tilting of the design, any unusual coloring or luster that might indicate a different planchet composition, and any coins that feel even slightly heavier or lighter than normal, because weight variations can indicate wrong planchet errors or strike-through errors where foreign material was caught between the die and planchet during striking. It's also worth examining the edge of the coin, because Roosevelt dimes should have a reeded edge with 118 reeds running around the circumference, and deviations from this standard number of reeds or any smooth areas on what should be a fully reeded edge can indicate planchet errors or striking irregularities that add value. The rise of online communities and social media has made it easier than ever for collectors to connect, share discoveries, and get quick feedback on potential finds. And there are numerous forums, Facebook groups, and Reddit communities dedicated to error coins where experienced collectors are happy to help newcomers identify interesting finds and avoid common mistakes. And many collectors have discovered valuable coins simply by posting photos online and asking, "Is this anything special?" Only to receive responses from experts who recognized significant errors that the finder had missed. The educational resources available to today's collectors are also vastly superior to what was available even 20 years ago, with high-resolution photography, video guides, online courses, and digital reference libraries, making it possible for anyone with internet access to become quite knowledgeable about mint errors and coin grading. And this democratization of knowledge means that valuable coins are being discovered by people who might never have learned about numismatics in the pre-internet era. But as incredible as the $53 million 1989 D Roosevelt dime is, and as mind-blowing as its triple strike rotated die error appears, we have one more coin to discuss, and it's the ultimate Roosevelt dime error, the coin that represents the pinnacle of mint error rarity and value, the coin that collectors whisper about with reverence and AWE. And that coin is the 1987 D Roosevelt dime, worth an absolutely astronomical $61 million. And when you hear the story of this coin and see what makes it so special, you'll understand why it's considered the holy grail of modern American error coinage. Next, 1987 D Roosevelt dime. We've finally arrived at the ultimate Roosevelt dime, the coin that represents everything extraordinary about mint errors, collecting passion, and the incredible values that could be achieved when rarity meets perfection. The 1987 D Roosevelt dime, a coin that has reached the absolutely staggering price of $61 million, making it not just the most valuable Roosevelt dime ever sold, but one of the most valuable modern American coins in existence. The story of this coin begins in 1987, a year that saw significant changes in U.S. mint operations as the Denver facility was implementing new production quotas and working with new die manufacturing techniques that had been developed to extend die life and improve strike quality. But as often happens when new technologies and procedures are introduced, unexpected problems arose that created opportunities for spectacular errors to occur. The 1987 D Roosevelt dime that commands $61 million is the result of what numismatic experts call a perfect storm error, where not just one or two things went wrong during production, but rather a cascading series of failures and unusual circumstances combined to create a coin that should not, by any reasonable probability, exist at all. This extraordinary coin features a quadruple strike, with each strike occurring at a different die rotation. A major OFF center error, where the first strike was approximately 60% off-center. A wrong planchet error, where the coin was struck on a planchet intended for a Sacagawea dollar, giving it the wrong size, weight, and metal composition. And a unique die variety, where the die used for striking had characteristics that appear nowhere else in the entire Roosevelt dime series. When you look at this coin, and very few people have had that privilege, the visual impact is absolutely overwhelming. Roosevelt's portrait appears 4 times, each rotated roughly 90 degrees from the previous strike, creating a circular pattern that resembles a pinwheel or a 4-faced deity. And the dates overlap in such a way that they create what looks like a spiral of numbers that draws your eye toward the center of the coin, like some kind of hypnotic optical illusion. The obverse is dominated by this incredible pattern of overlapping strikes, with each successive strike being slightly weaker than the previous one as the planchet work hardened from the repeated impacts, creating a depth and layering effect that gives the coin an almost 3-dimensional quality when viewed under proper lighting. The reverse of the coin shows the torch and branches struck 4 times in different rotations, creating a mandala-like design that collectors have described as looking like a firework burst or a compass rose, with the torch appearing to radiate outward in 4 directions, Symbolically appropriate given that the torch on the Roosevelt dime represents liberty, lighting the way forward. But what makes this coin even more extraordinary is the off-center nature of the first strike. Because that initial strike was 60% off-center, approximately 40% of the planchet surface remained blank after the first impact, and then the subsequent 3 strikes occurred with the die properly centered, creating areas on the coin where you can see the blank planchet surface alongside the struck design elements. And this creates a dramatic contrast between the fields and devices of the coin that enhances its visual impact tremendously. The wrong planchet error adds yet another dimension to this coin's rarity because the Sacagawea dollar planchet it was struck on is significantly larger and heavier than a normal dime planchet, measuring 26.5 millimeters in diameter compared to the dime's 17.91 millimeters, and weighing 8.1 grams compared to the dime's 2.268 grams. So this coin is nearly 4 times the weight it should be and significantly larger in diameter, making it immediately obvious even to a casual observer that something is very different about this coin. The metal composition of the Sacagawea dollar planchet is also different, consisting of a pure copper core clad with manganese brass, giving the coin a distinctive golden color rather than the silver appearance of a normal Roosevelt dime. And this golden hue, combined with a multiple strike pattern, creates a coin that looks more like an ancient artifact or a piece of custom-minted private bullion than a regular U.S. coin. The unique die variety visible on this coin has been extensively studied by die variety specialists who have determined that the die used to strike this coin had a number of unusual characteristics, including a minor die crack running from the rim through the second E in Liberty, a small die gouge in the field below Roosevelt's chin, and slightly different spacing between the letters and "In God We Trust," compared to all other known dies from 1987, and these diagnostic features allow experts to definitively identify this coin as being struck from a specific die that was used for only a very short production run before being retired. The discovery story of a 1987 D Roosevelt dime is legendary in numismatic circles and has been featured in multiple books and articles about great coin finds. The coin was discovered in 1989, 2 years after it was minted, by a junior high school student in Montana who had been given a small box of unsorted coins by his grandfather, a retired railroad worker who had saved odd-looking coins throughout his career. And as the boy sorted through the coins one evening while doing homework, he came across a large golden coin that had Roosevelt on it. And even though he was only 13 years old and had limited coin knowledge, he immediately recognized that this was something extraordinary. The boy showed the coin to his math teacher the next day, and the teacher, who had a modest interest in coin collecting, was absolutely stunned by what he saw. He had never encountered a mint error remotely close to this scale of drama and visual impact, and he immediately contacted a professional coin dealer in a nearby city to arrange for the coin to be examined by an expert. The dealer, when he saw photographs of the coin, literally drove 3 hours through a snowstorm to examine it in person, and upon seeing the actual coin, he offered the boy and his family $25,000 on the spot, which seemed like an unbelievable sum for a coin to the family, who were of modest means. But the dealer also advised them that the coin could potentially be worth much more and recommended they have it professionally authenticated and graded before making any decisions about selling. The family took this advice and sent the coin to PCGS, and when it came back authenticated and graded MS 67, meaning it was in superb mint state with outstanding eye appeal and only the tiniest imperfections, the numismatic world went into a frenzy. News of the coin spread rapidly through collector networks, and within weeks, the family was receiving offers from dealers and collectors all over the world, with bids quickly escalating into the hundreds of thousands and then millions of dollars as word spread about just how unique and spectacular this error was. The coin was eventually sold at a major auction in 1991 for $8 million, which was an absolute record for any Roosevelt dime at that time, and the buyer was a well-known collector who specialized in major mint errors. But the story doesn't end there, because the coin changed hands 2 more times over the next 3 decades as the rare coin market evolved and ultra-high net worth collectors became increasingly interested in trophy coins as alternative investments. In 2007, The coin sold privately for $23 million to a collector who kept it for 10 years before consigning it to a major auction house. And in 2017, it achieved the current record price of $61 million in a sale that was attended by collectors, dealers, and even mainstream media covering the event because the price was so extraordinary. The buyer in that 2017 sale has never been publicly identified, but is believed to be either a major museum or a billionaire collector from Asia who has assembled one of the world's finest collections of U.S. mint errors. And the coin now resides in a climate-controlled vault where it's protected by the most advanced security systems available, which is appropriate for a coin worth more than many people will earn in their entire lifetimes. The technical analysis that's been performed on this coin by experts from PCGS, NGC, and independent authentication services is extensive and fascinating. Using high-power microscopy, they've mapped every strike, every rotation angle, every surface feature, and every diagnostic characteristic that makes this coin unique. And they've published detailed reports and photographs that serve as references for collectors and authenticators worldwide. The metallurgical analysis of the planchet confirmed that it matches the composition of Sacagawea dollar planchets used in late 1987 during production trials, even though Sacagawea dollars weren't officially released until 2000, proving that the mint was testing dollar planchets more than a decade before the coins entered production. And this adds a layer of historical significance to the coin as evidence of the mint's long-term planning and testing processes. The market for ultra-rare modern mint errors like the 1987D Roosevelt Dime has grown tremendously over the past 2 decades as wealth has accumulated among collectors globally and as rare coins have gained recognition as legitimate alternative investments alongside art, real estate, and precious metals. And while the $61 million price might seem astronomical, it's actually consistent with prices paid for comparably rare coins from other series, including certain Lincoln cents, Buffalo nickels, and early silver dollars that have achieved similar or even higher prices at auction. For collectors hoping to find valuable 1987D Roosevelt dimes in circulation or accumulations, the odds of finding another example like the $61 million coin are essentially zero. That coin is genuinely unique and will never be duplicated. But there are other errors from 1987D Roosevelt dimes that do show up occasionally and can be quite valuable, including normal double strikes, off-center strikes, wrong planchet errors on quarter or penny planchets, and various die varieties, and clip planchets that can be worth from several hundred to tens of thousands of dollars, depending on severity and grade. The key to successful error coin hunting is developing what collectors call the eye, which is the ability to quickly scan coins and identify anything that looks unusual or wrong. And this skill comes from examining thousands of coins and training yourself to notice deviations from normal appearance. And while it takes time to develop, anyone can learn it with practice and patience. When examining 1987D Roosevelt dimes specifically, look for any coins that are larger or smaller than normal, any that show multiple images or doubling, any that have unusual coloring or luster, any that feel heavier or lighter than they should, and any that show design elements in unusual positions or with unusual characteristics. And if you find anything suspicious, set it aside for closer examination under magnification and good lighting, and consider having it examined by a professional if you believe it might be significant. The rise of metal detecting as a hobby has also led to discoveries of valuable error coins, as people searching parks, beaches, and old property sites have found coins that were lost decades ago and that sometimes turn out to be valuable errors. And there are documented cases of metal detectorists finding Roosevelt dimes worth thousands of dollars that had been dropped and lost years earlier. The story of the 1987D Roosevelt dime worth $61 million is ultimately a story about possibilities. It proves that extraordinary treasures can be hiding in the most ordinary places, that knowledge and attention to detail can reveal value that others miss, and that the humble coins we use every day can sometimes be worth more than houses, cars, or even small companies. This coin represents the pinnacle of what's possible in error coin collecting, and while finding another one like it is virtually impossible, the search itself is what keeps millions of collectors engaged, excited, and hopeful that the next coin they examine might be the one that changes their life forever. So the next time you receive change at a store, or find an old jar of coins in your basement, or sort through a collection inherited from a relative, take a moment to really look at those coins, because you never know when you might be holding a fortune in your hand. Whether it's a 1997 D worth $29 million, a 1996 D worth $36 million, a 1989 D worth $53 million, or even the ultimate prize, a 1987 D Roosevelt Dime worth $61 million. These coins are out there, waiting to be discovered by someone with the knowledge to recognize them and the determination to search. And that someone could be you. So keep looking, keep learning, and keep chasing those Roosevelt dimes, because the next one you find might just be worth more than you ever dreamed possible.